Hey everyone, and welcome. So, you want to learn some practical French? Well, forget about memorizing boring vocabulary lists. Today, we're going to do something way more fun. We're going to follow a story, a little adventure, and pick up the words we need exactly when our hero needs them. Sound good?
You know that feeling, right? When you're in a brand new place, totally lost, and your brain just kind of goes into panic mode? Well, that's exactly where we find our protagonist, Thomas. We're going to follow him on a little quest inside a huge university library, and his confusion is actually going to be our gain. We're turning it into an awesome learning opportunity.
Okay, so our mission, should we choose to accept it, starts right at the front door of this university. Let's dive into Chapter 1, the entrance on the ground floor.
All right, here we go. It's the first day of school, and Thomas steps into this massive university building. The story tells us he's on the Rez-de-chaussée, and he's looking for la Bibliothèque. So right away, we've got two super important words to tackle. Let's start with where he is. Okay, so this first one, Rez-de-chaussée, is an absolute must-know for navigating any building in a French-speaking country. It just means the ground floor. You know, the one that's level with the street. A little pro tip, you'll often see it shortened to RDC on elevator buttons. And his goal? La Bibliothèque. That's the library. Of course, he's totally lost, so he does the smart thing and asks a security guard for some help.
Now listen closely to the words the guard uses here. He says aller, which is the formal command for go, coming from the verb aller. Then he uses prenez, which means take, from the verb prendre. Seriously, these two verbs are going to be your best friends anytime you're trying to understand directions in French.
Let's dig into that first instruction a little more. Aller tout droit jusqu'au bout. This is a great example of a subtle but really important detail. Tout droit tells you the direction, just go straight ahead. But jusqu'au bout gives you the limit of that movement. Go straight all the way to the very end. See the difference? Then he says to take the premier corridor, the first one, à gauche, which means on the left.
Okay, so the guard's directions seem pretty straightforward. He says that après les toilettes, after the restrooms, Thomas will spot l'ascenseur, the elevator. Easy peasy, right? Nope. In a classic story twist, the elevator is broken. Of course it is. So poor Thomas has to find another way up, and that means taking l'escalier, the stairs. But hey, before he starts that epic climb, he wisely makes a quick pit stop at l'abreuvoir, which is the water fountain. By the way, you might also hear this called la fontaine.
All right, let's do a super quick recap of Chapter 1. We've already unlocked a bunch of awesome vocabulary. We've got building parts like bibliothèque and corridor, key action verbs like aller and prendre, and essential direction words like tout droit and à gauche. Not bad for our first few steps. So Thomas is standing at the bottom of the stairs, and this is where his real adventure begins. He's about to explore the many, many floors of this library. Welcome to Chapter 2, the exploration of the floors. Now, before we start climbing with him, we need to add two absolutely critical verbs to our toolkit. These are all about moving up and down. To go up, you say monter. To go down, it's descendre. And hey, you can totally hear the English words ascend and descend in there, right? That's a perfect little memory trick. And trust me, Thomas is about to get a serious workout using both of these. What's funny is his journey actually starts by going down. He goes down to the sous-sol, which is the basement, looking for an atlas. Okay, basement level done. Now the real climb begins. He has to monter. So on the premier étage, the first floor, he finds les dictionnaires. But that's not what he's looking for, so he decides to continuer, to continue on up. On the deuxième étage, the second floor, he hits the multimedia section, with les CD and les DVD. Still no luck. So he keeps going, and on the troisième floor, he finds a room for reading le théâtre, which means plays. So let's pause and see what we've picked up in this chapter. We added descendre, monter, and continuer to our list of action verbs. Plus, we've now got the hang of naming floors with those ordinal numbers, premier, deuxième, troisième, and we've started to build a really useful library-specific vocabulary, everything from an atlas to theater plays. Okay, on to Chapter 3. At this point, Thomas is probably really feeling that stair climb in his legs, but he is not done yet. The quest must go on. He has to continuer, keep going up to the higher floors where, honestly, the really cool stuff in the library is. And these upper floors are like a treasure trove. On the quatrième étage, the fourth floor, he finds les bandes dessinées, which are comic books, les journaux, newspapers, and la poésie, or poetry.
Still not there, so he pushes on to the 5e étage, the 5th floor, which has all the magazines and les livres numériques, e-books. Finally, he reaches the 6e étage, the 6th floor, which is home to les romans québécois, novels from Quebec, and les romans étrangers, or foreign novels.
So, as you can see, this whole chapter was about bulking up our vocabulary for all the different things you can find in a library. We've got everything from comic books to foreign novels, and we got even more practice with those floor numbers. Awesome.
And here we are, the climax of the story. Thomas is exhausted. He thinks he's finally at the end of his journey, but then he makes one tiny, critical mistake, a wrong turn. And this one little error is about to send him even higher, all the way to the top of the building, before he can finally escape. So here's what happened. Instead of turning left, he tourna droite. He turns right. The verb here is tourner, which means to turn. This is the perfect example to lock this in your brain. À gauche is left, and à droite is right. It's such an easy mistake to make when you're tired, right?
And wow, what a mistake that was. Because he turned right instead of left. He ended up in a totally different stairwell and just kept climbing all the way to the 10e étage. That's the 10th floor. And guess what? It's the roof. He has gone way, way too far. So he quickly turns around and rushes back down.
Finally, he spots a librarian on the dernier étage, the last or top floor of this particular section. And now he uses two words that are, absolutely essential for any traveler, anywhere. First, he says, pardon. It's the perfect, polite way to get someone's attention, kind of like, excuse me. And then he gets right to the point. Je cherche la sortie. I'm looking for the exit.
Thankfully, the librarian gives him really clear, simple directions. First, she says, descendre, which is the command form of go down. But listen to the urgency she adds with the phrase, tout de suite. That means right away or immediately. So go down immediately to the ground floor. Then she says, tournez à gauche, turn left. She gives him the right direction this time. He's finally on the right track.
And just like that, we've wrapped up the vocabulary for our final chapter. We've got politeness covered with pardon, absolute essentials like la sortie, and those critical directional words that finally help Thomas escape the library maze.
He made it. Thomas is free, and so are we. But look at what we gained from his little misadventure. We're now equipped with a fantastic set of navigational tools. So let's do one last, super focused debrief on the most important phrases you can start using today. Here it is, folks, your brand new, shiny French navigation toolkit. Seriously, with just these phrases right here, you can understand and give basic directions in pretty much any French-speaking city or building. From aller tout droit to où est la sortie, you now have the core vocabulary you need to find your way around. No more getting lost like Thomas.
So we followed Thomas on his crazy quest, and we came out on the other side with a ton of really practical knowledge. The next time you're in a new place, you won't feel lost. You'll just be ready for an adventure. So the only question left to ask is, where will your French adventure take you next?